Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 140 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I'm your host, Mark Harris. And the number 25 Arizona State Sun Devils are 4-1 and 2-0 in the Big 12 after yet another 27-24 win over a Texas-based Big 12 team, this time defeating the Texas Christian, I almost called them Texas Tech, the TCU Horned Frogs, 27-24 on last Friday night at Mountain America Stadium. Coming at you guys a week after because I'm lazy and I like watching MLB playoff games during the day. So I wanted to wait until the wild card round was over and share my thoughts on last week's game, the overall state of ASU as it's in its bye week, and some big picture stuff that's been announced about Sun Devil athletics in recent days. So going to be a little bit of everything on this episode, but overall, great spot where the football team is in at 4-1. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice, and let's get rolling. Okay, ASU is 4-1. It was an absolute grind to get to 4-1 by defeating TCU 27-24 last Friday night. I have shared on the screen here for the YouTube audience the play-by-play, the drive counter of that game. And I'm going to just kind of go through it quickly. But I do want to touch on something like the big bugaboo among fans. Though there's really two, one big picture, one small picture. Small picture is the punting is bad. It's just bad. And so I'm not going to focus too much on that because it looks like Canyon Floyd is kind of recovering and we don't know, but he'll probably be back for the game at Utah. So I'm not super worried about the punting stuff. The bigger picture issue was the lack of red zone success. And I'll say this, looking back at the box score and how the drive went, that's not the first thing that jumped out to me. So I'll kind of run through how the game goes. So obviously, TCU jumps out to a quick 17-0 lead, and then ASU responds fairly quickly with two touchdowns in the final 5 minutes of the first half, starting off with the 57-yard bomb from Levitt to Tyson, and then you have the two Levitt runs that end up with a touchdown for ASU. So obviously the Levitt fumble before the half, not great. But looking back at this, I'll say like what really stuck out to me even more than the failed red zone stuff is ASU's inability to get pretty much anything going on its first 4 possessions of the game. And that's really what allowed TCU to just jump on them because ASU forced a 3-and-out on its first possession of TCU, but they just couldn't do anything. They go 5 plays, 20 yards, punt. They get, 1 first down and then have to punt. They then 9 plays, so they get 2 first downs. Yeah, they get 2 first downs, then have to punt, which that's fine. I can live with that more. The yardage doesn't really reflect their success, but ultimately it's still a punt. Okay, they're down 7-0 entering the second quarter. You get a decent drive, right? A drive that includes a 28-yard run for Rayleigh Brown, 11-yard run. Oh, I hate that new feature. 11-yard run right after that. And then the offense stalls a little bit. You get a 2-yard run, incompletion, loss of 5-yard sack. But then you get a missed field goal from Gomez, 46 yards, which is for him, that's a makeable field goal. And, look, I was in the upper deck for this game. Obviously, like it's old news now, but the rain and the weather and is there going to be a delay and gates open late and all that, it didn't really affect the game. But the one thing that was a little more apparent was the wind in the bowl was a little more than usual. So I can give Gomez the benefit of the doubt, but like he should have made both those field goals still. Like this guy's good enough that this shouldn't be too big of an issue. So anyway, that's how the game starts, and it's just and then you get another downs after that, giving TCU a short field because you couldn't get you had 3rd and 1, you had 3rd and 1, you had 2 opportunities to get it, and that was tough. That was a tough sequence, and then the defense really first starts out great. They pretty much get a stop. They would have forced, but there's a PI on Abney. But again, they get a field goal. So keeps them in the game, and then the offense immediately responds, and defense responds with 2 more punts after that. And all of a sudden, we're entering the half down 17-14, and it kind of just feels like a regular game again. So I'll talk about later on in the game, but to me, a thing that's kind of gone under-discussed from this game in terms of the negative column is just the offense not being able to get stuff together early on in the game. And you were able to overcome it against TCU, and you've been able to overcome it against everyone but Mississippi State so far. But you can't just keep doing that, And so I know there's going to be a lot of things like, obviously, red zone offense, critical and very important for the coaching staff in the bye week. It also needs to be starting games quicker on offense. And I'm not saying all of these, I'm not saying every drive has to end with a touchdown, but in the first half, if you're getting, let's just go the first 4 drives here. If you're getting these results on the first 4 drives and only one of these drives really has any sort of length, that's not good enough. You need if you have 2 punts and a field goal and a touchdown in your first 4 drives, then okay, you have 10 points. You're in shape and let's roll. But it can't be It can't be 3 or 2 punts, missed field goal, and then downs in your own side of the field. Like that just can't happen. So the Levitt fumble, I'm not going to sit here that was a mistake by him, but that drive was much less, just less frustrating than those first 4, because at least at that point they had shown they can move the ball down the field. They figure some stuff out. So that's another thing beyond the red zone offense that has to be addressed. But anyway, look, in that game, I was so nervous the entire game. But when you got to half down 17-14, it's okay, this just kind of feels like a normal game. Had you told me before the game it would be TCU 17, ASU 14 at half, that wouldn't feel weird, So business as usual there. Second half starts. TCU kind of goes down the field. We decide to just do some stupid kickoff, or not. So I missed this kickoff in real time. It was the attempt of kicking it right at the guy and having it bounce off the first guy in the formation of the kick return team. I can understand the strategy, and ultimately it didn't kill them because they got the tipped interception that went to Boogie Wilson. That had Boogie Wilson not stumbled a little bit, I don't know if that would have been a pick 6, but he sure had the momentum and the quick path to really get out in front. And if it wasn't going to be a pick 6, it would have been at least a 60-yard return. And the only players that are chasing him down are a wide receiver or maybe a quick running back or something. It would have taken a really fast receiver to track him down. But anyway, you get the ball back, and you get a long field goal drive. Annoying that it had to settle for a field goal. And again, this is where the red zone stuff really crept up. You do the Eusebio. I think defenses have caught on to the Eusebio sweep. So that didn't work. A Rayleigh Brown run for 1 yard. Levitt has a 1 yard sack on the third down, and then you have to kick the field goal. Unfortunately, but it's also not the worst. It was really good to see Levitt find Malik McClain and more importantly, a deep bomb to Jaron Hamilton on that drive. Especially like they've been close to getting these Jaron Hamilton deep bombs to hit. We saw him drop the pass against Texas State. We saw them go to him early on in the game against Mississippi State. We saw Hamilton draw a PI on a deep pattern against Baylor. So Levitt is looking for Hamilton deep, and he finally hit on one, which was a great throw, and Hamilton got interfered with, but ASU declined it. So that was really good to see, just kind of the those two gelling even more. Unfortunate touchdown drive they give up. I do think that Hoover had some really good passes. This one to Chase Curtis down the sideline. I had a good view of that. Like ASU had a guy in the lane, and it was just a perfectly layered ball. So like Hoover really did in the first 3 quarters of this game make some really good individual throws. And so like that's why it's not like guys were running wide open free. There wasn't these huge plays that happened. TCU definitely had some chunk plays. I mean, you have 2, 21-yard pass, 20-yard pass back to back. Like that's not great. But throughout the game, like the defense didn't really let them go crazy, I would say. So they have that touchdown. You're down by 7. This is when the fourth quarter. This is when the anxiety just got ratcheted up. You drive down the field pretty well. You get hit Jordan Tyson on a sliding for 14 yards, and then you get to the 2-yard line, and it's just brutal. This is the worst sequence of the entire game, in my opinion. Minus 1 yard run Brown for Rayleigh Brown. Minus 1 yard run loss for Rayleigh Brown, and then 3 incompletions. It didn't look like anyone was really open on any of those plays. So I don't know the whole, backstory of that, but that was really tough. That was a really tough sequence. And again, like this is a key for the game. Like the defense held firm, right? They forced a 3 and out, and their running game never got going at all. So good stuff. And then you get the missed field goal again. 43 yards can't happen. I hope that this is the game where Gomez, like, because he's a kicker, like kickers aren't just going to make every single kick. So I understand that. I hope that this is the game where he kind of got some of that stuff out of his system. So, or just whatever. This is the game where he happened to miss more than usual. So again, still 24-17. You get a punt that you force. And, that was obviously good to see, right? They get 1 first down. Prince Dorba has a huge sack. I'll talk about him later. Then you have this drive. You get all the way down to their goal line. You get the late thrown PI to McLean. That was definitely a PI. Like I know it was late. It was a PI. And eventually they get the ball to Jordan Tyson 4 yards out to tie the game on a little slant pattern there. You start out again with a 0-yard run to Rayleigh Brown. I hated this call. The negative 1 yard pass to Kamari Anderson, not the place to use him. That didn't work. But eventually, just a great execution by Levitt and Tyson on that 4-yard touchdown pass. And it felt like that was it wasn't the play of the game, but it felt like if ASU didn't score there, they were going to lose. And who knows how it would have played out because there's still, so much stuff happened after that. You get the Dorba strip sack on Hoover, kick the field goal. They almost didn't kick the field goal because they wanted to sneak it on the TCU 1 yard line. Dillingham's explanation made sense. I am also happy that Maxi Iheanacho jumped offside and ASU just had to settle for a field goal. Ended up working. You get the pick from Martell Hughes to end the game, and ASU is 4-1, 2-0 in the Big 12. A crazy game. I mean, just an absolutely crazy game. Shout out to the crowd. It was an incredible crowd game. TCU mentioned it after the game. And I mean, there was a lot of things stacking in the way. Like it was tough to get around late afternoon on Friday because of all the rain. People didn't know if the game was going to be delayed. It was shitty weather before the game kicked off. There's that video of these guys tailgating in the one of the parking garage areas, and it's just rain, like coming in sideways. You can see like water. It's just you can tell they're in a complete storm, but it was just a great visual of these guys like huddled under a tent behind someone's truck and still tailgating. So good for them. ASU got the win for them. I thought this was Levitt's best game of the year. I don't think most of the bad plays in the goal line were his fault. I'm sure he missed a throw or was late on something, but he ultimately threw the game tying throw to Tyson on 4th and goal. I thought he was pretty smart with his decision makings. And if you look at the stats of the game, it will also show that while Jordan Tyson was the main target, 8 catches for 126 yards, Rayleigh Brown actually had more receptions. He had 9 catches for 50 yards. Mateer, 4 catches, 25 yards. Cameron Harpole, tight end, 2 catches, 17 yards. And then it goes Hamilton, McLean, Eusebio, and Anderson, each with 1 catch themselves. So, I mean, 27 completions, and 19 of those completions are going to other players. That's a good sign for ASU. And that's good that these secondary wide receivers are getting a little bit more involved in the offense. Now, would I like for one of the secondary receivers to have, 3 catches? Yes, I would. But, when you involve Mateer and Rayleigh Brown in the offense a bit more, then it's a bit easier to deal with the less receptions from the secondary wide receivers. So that was really good to see. I thought Rayleigh Brown had a great game. His 35-yard run, like that really blew things open for ASU in the fourth quarter. There needs to be a better way to utilize him in the deep red zone, because he's clearly he's not going to be a guy that just pushes the line further. There's very few of those guys, but he's not he's not like a Scadaboo or any sort of power running back. That's not really his game. At least it wasn't versus TCU. It felt like ASU had no chance of running it in when they were 3 yards out with him. So that has to be tweaked. Maybe you call a pitch to him, or I don't know, but I think there are probably better ways to use Rayleigh Brown in the deep red zone. I like the Levitt running abilities. I hope that the addition of Jalen Moss actually makes a real difference as a slot receiver. We as ASU fans, we have no idea what the impact of Jalen Moss will be. We have no idea. And so who knows? Maybe he's been the missing piece. Maybe he's the difference in ASU scoring a touchdown earlier in this game, or scoring. Maybe they throw the ball. They're more comfortable throwing the ball at that red zone drive against Mississippi State. So I get why it's been such an issue for ASU fans, and it's something that's kind of been a constant from game to game. So that needs to be something that really gets fine-tuned, because ASU's offensive line, they haven't been a great running O-line, but they've graded out pretty well in most metrics. And especially pass blocking. When Levitt gets sacked, it's because either there's a well-timed blitz or he's just holding the ball on too long. So, yeah, but for Jordan Tyson, what else can you say? What else can you say? He's just incredible. He gets open all the time. He almost came down with 2 other great catches. I think he's being used, if you're looking at this past game, I think this was a good example of what his usage should be. You shouldn't be going to him, if he has 15 catches in a game or something, that's probably not great. But then again, it's there's only 12 games in the regular season. We're 5 games now, and you also want to ride your best player. So I think they have to find that balance of involving other guys while also understanding like you should be throwing to number 0. Like he is incredible, and it's pretty cool to have like an ASU player because Levitt's NFL stock has taken a bit of a hit, I should say, not a huge hit, but he's not showing up quite as much on first round draft boards. Part of that's just because of like Mendoza and Dante Moore stealing some of the shine. But he also like, it's clear that like, he also hasn't like played himself out of it either. In fact, I want to show an odds thing. This is on the 27th and appears to be on DraftKings. So this is from Adam Kramer on Twitter. He's saying how Ty Simpson of Alabama is Heisman favorite, tied with Dante Moore. I think Dante Moore is the deserved Heisman favorite. You have Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State wide receiver. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman. And then Mendoza at Indiana definitely has a chance. Carson Beck at Miami, he has a chance. I just doubt that Carson Beck will actually win the Heisman. Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss, plus 1,600, definitely has a chance. Still a long season, but has a chance. And then you get to tied for 7th is Sam Levitt with Aguilar at Tennessee and Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. And I think that's a good spot for Levitt. Like this is what I wrote on the 28th on the Stomp the Bus Twitter feed at Stomp the Bus Pod on Twitter. Despite some inconsistencies, Levitt has not played himself out of Heisman contention. He won't win it with how Dante Moore is playing, but his improved play the last 3 games is recognized by odds makers. And I think that's a good summary. Like, I think that he's probably, I don't know. I mean, there's still 7 games to go. If he plays well against Utah and Texas Tech, then all of a sudden, like, the Heisman odds are back in his favor. But I do think that after the Mississippi State game where he was bad, he was unequivocally bad. I think that the last 3 games of him playing well, limiting turnovers, not eliminating turnovers, but limiting them, and leading ASU to wins and being a real reason that ASU is winning games and not just sitting in the sidecar. He still definitely has a chance to be a Heisman contender late in the year. I think that Dante Moore, I mean, that win at Penn State, that was a big win and he played really well in that game. So I think Dante Moore has to be the favorite. In Mendoza, like, credit to him. He's been great at Indiana. Any of those other guys, I'm like, okay, like I think Levitt can jump up a little bit. There's going to be a running back that pops up. Hardy at Missouri is incredible. Jonah Coleman at Washington. Another, who knows? But I think that like he's kept himself in the mix, and that speaks to how well he has played, because these Heisman odds also factor in how bad he was against Mississippi State. So, and then Tyson, I mean, hey, I haven't looked up the Bolitnikoff Award odds, but he's up there. And basically all these draft boards have him as wide receiver number 1, and that's awesome to see. So ASU offense still inconsistent, but you could see I think Dillingham said after the game they were dancing around their potential, and I think that's a good way to put it. Like let's get back to the ESPN page. When you as a team put up 500 yards, 498 yards, you rush for 4.7 yards and they rush for 0.4, you're just a better team. You had over 200, you had like about 230 yards more of offense, and so like, I think that when you're good in that category, like in the base down to down stuff, that will eventually lead to better outcomes on the scoring side of it. So I think that's just a good sign to see. And I would also say, this is something that I posted. If Jesus Gomez makes 2 of those field goals, the two ones he missed. Let's just remove all the other offensive annoyances that we have, right? The taking too long to get started earlier in the game, right? That's something that slowed them down. The not executing well enough in the red zone issue. That's something, and I've talked about that. If Gomez just makes those two, 46 and a 43-yard field goal, this game could be 33-24, and that late field goal at the end is just insurance to make sure you're up by 2 scores instead of we need to get the lead. So that's something that is encouraging because it's showing that, I mean, if you look at ASU's drives, for as much as I'm talking about these first two in the first quarter, it kind of settle in with all but one. Like you get 48 or 47 yards, missed field goal, touchdown. You fumble, but 4 plays and 34 yards, you were in field goal range. You get a field goal. Downs, you're in field goal. I mean, you're at the freaking 3-yard line. So, like, you're in field goal range there. You miss field goal, obviously. You're in field goal range. Touchdown, field goal, and then ending. Like, so they were stacking drives that were getting them into scoring range. And if you do that enough, as this game played out, like, you will win. So, I think if that kind of production can transfer from game to game, then like you don't have to be perfect on all of these red zone attempts. You can kick the field goal, and if you just get more opportunities, then a Rayleigh Brown 0-yard run on 3rd and 3 from the 3-yard line doesn't kill you. So anyway, before I kind of shift over to some other stuff, we need to see more Kanye Udo, especially in the goal line, short yardage situations. I'm not saying he's Scattaboo or he's Marshawn Lynch or Dave Montgomery or whomever you want to, but he's just a bigger body than Rayleigh Brown and it has some more juice than Kyson Brown. So we'll see what happens after the bye week. Maybe Kyson Brown gets back a little bit more healthy. Maybe Kanye Udo just gets more ingrained with the playbook and is more familiar with what he needs to do. I don't know what it is. I'm not saying you roll back. Like Rayleigh Brown needs to be the main running back. I think that is clear. Like he's the rushing leader in the Big 12. I think he's like eighth in the country, like entering play this week, of course. So it needs to be Rayleigh Brown as the main guy, but there are situations where Kanye Udo needs to be featured more. So there's that. Shout out to the freaking defense, man. What a game for the defense. 6 sacks? 6 sacks? 3 from Prince Dorba, including the biggest play of the year. I mean, shout out to Prince Dorba, man. What a game for him. He was outstanding. And Clayton Smith was great. Keyshawn Elliott was great. Keith Abney had a great game. Elijah O'Neal got a big sack in the first series of the game that ended up mattering. Jordan Crook, another really good game from him. Boogie Wilson, a great game. Martell Hughes, a great game. Rodney Bibbage played well. Like, I just think this defense is really starting to gel. And look, they have not been bad in any game, right? You go on the road, you give up 24 points to Baylor. I know the end where they gave up some long plays was not great. It's still a really good performance in the grand scheme of things, right? 24 points to Baylor is good. 24 points to TCU, pretty good. Josh Hoover had thrown for 1,000 yards in 3 games entering this game. And they picked him off twice and sacked him 6 times and forced a fumble on a sack. So that was an encouraging sign. The Texas State defensive performance is continuing to age well. The Mississippi State defensive performance, I think it's as much as my opinion on that remains consistent with what happened after the game. Like, the defense kept you in the game. They played a pretty good game. They were misled by their defensive coordinator, coaching staff, whatever, on that stupid safety blitz play at the end of the game. But thankfully, Mississippi State appears to be at least an okay team. It would have been great if they had beaten Tennessee, but they just got to get to a bowl game. I just don't want ASU to lose a road game to a non-bowl game SEC team. So we'll see. They got two more opportunities to punch that bowl ticket. So our road loss to them doesn't look as bad. All right. So mostly touched on stuff in this game. Want to share my thoughts that I tweeted out. Yeah, this is pretty. This is what I thought right after the game, and it's kind of a good um, review of it. So Levitt feels a bit more comfortable in the offense, still room to grow, but best game of the year. Check. Tyson's wide receiver 1. Check. O-line needs to execute better in goal line situations. Check. Notice how I didn't say the O-line was bad. I said they just need to do better at this one specific thing. Punting can't be this bad. Hopefully Floyd returns soon. Check, check, check. You're not going into Utah and winning with like 25-yard punts. That's just not going to happen. Continued defense was outstanding. No huge mistakes or big plays allowed. Check. Pass, rush, and run defense were awesome. Agreed. This game probably feels different if Gomez makes those 2 field goals. Check, check. I mentioned that earlier. Love seeing Hamilton contribute. 4-1 is a great place to be bye week at the right time. Another thing I want to mention is ASU is pretty healthy. Not having Xavier Alford sucks. Not having Jalen Moss isn't great. I can't really think of any other big absences besides those 2. Yeah, I think it's just Alford and Moss. Alford's the only one out for a long time. I know I should have looked this up, but I mean, that speaks to the point of like pretty good bill of health entering the bye week. And, Javen Robinson has also been injured. But with those 2 guys in the secondary, or Javen Robinson got injured in this game, twisted his ankle or something. Bimage, replacing Robinson, played very well. And Boogie Wilson, you would not know the difference but like Boogie Wilson was the backup. And he's played really well. He had the pick in this game, and he was in on one of the forced fumbles against Baylor. And so he's been a fantastic portal pickup and a great secondary player for ASU in this moment. Speaking of the secondary, Montana Warren is also injured. Kendrick Breedlove, another portal pickup, has been a really good fill-in for him as well. So, or at least a suitable fill-in. I don't know, maybe not really good, but he's been solid enough. And with that, ASU is tied with Iowa State at 2-0 overall in the conference. There will be potentially one more 2-0 team in the conference if Cincinnati can beat Iowa State in Cincinnati on Saturday. That's going to be a pretty fun game. At Utah is going to be extremely difficult. I'm not going to get into too much of that game in this episode. The only kind of stray thought I have in my head about Utah, because Utah's perception just plummeted after that Texas Tech game. There's a few things that I don't know, they're just bouncing around in my head. Well, number one, like that game, like Utah's defense played well for 3/4 of that game, and then it was too late, and Texas Tech added on. So how much does that matter? Like, I don't know. But I think it was like Utah's defense and offense played excellent against West Virginia. Now they were coming off getting blown out. West Virginia's terrible. I get it. But they bounced back in that game. Another thing, that game was at 10 a.m. local time for Utah, and I don't know what to make of that, right? Like, because it would be 11 a.m. local time for Texas Tech, and Texas Tech played better as that game went on, as opposed to Utah playing better as that game went on. So I don't know if the body clock played any real role in that, but I think that's just kind of something to mention. I also find it interesting that Baron Morton will start against Houston on Saturday for Texas Tech. I think their backup quarterback is better than Morton. I don't know. I mean, I guess they're at practice all day. I get it, but Will Hammond look better than Morton? We'll see how that plays out when the Red Raiders come to Tempe on the 18th. But that's a storyline to watch. So, I mean, overall, ASU did not start out conference play 2-0 last year. They picked up a road loss right away. So, from that perspective, ASU was already ahead of schedule. And, overall, like, I predicted ASU to go 4-1 through the first 5 games. I think most ASU fans probably looked at the first 2 games because no one picked the Mississippi State loss. Most ASU fans looked at those games against TCU and Baylor and thought, there's probably a loss in one of those. And how those games played out, they weren't wrong for thinking that way. But, of course, ASU was able to get the job done and stay the course. So 4-1 through a different way than we expected, but not in some ways it's the best way to be 4-1 because you don't have a conference loss. These next 4 games are going to be incredibly difficult. I think a lot of people, obviously if ASU goes 3-1 in this stretch versus Utah, Texas Tech, Houston, and Iowa State, then that is fantastic. If they go 3-1 in this stretch right here on the bottom of my screen, then they are very likely to just finish 10-2 in the regular season, and that would be great. There's what I'm hoping for is if you can have one loss through these first 3 games, Utah, Texas Tech, and Houston, and if you give yourself one loss before you go to Ames, Iowa, and I think ASU will win that game in Ames, Iowa, but if you give yourself only one loss in those next 3 games before you enter the month of November and go to Ames, Iowa, I think then you are really setting yourself up good because then you can afford a unexpected loss or a loss to Iowa State, one of those 2. So, but 2-2 through that stretch, it would not be the end of the world, right? ASU went 7-2 in the Big 12 last year, and they made the championship game. There was also tiebreakers that came into play. So if you want to avoid tiebreakers, you probably got to go undefeated or one loss through this 4-game stretch. And then I'm not going to focus too much on the final games, but those are on paper easier than those 4. So all they got to focus on is the next game, And so it's all about just beating Utah in this next game. But winning these 2 games like this just is a huge sigh of relief. Like it is, it's just incredible to have these 2 wins over pretty good teams in your back pocket. And I would also say, let's look at the stats here. One Sawyer Robertson being the passing yards leader, that's good for ASU. That is good for ASU's defense because I'm not going to say ASU's defense completely shut him down, but they limited him. They limited him more than any other relevant team that he's faced has limited him, right? I want to go QBR. Okay, this is tough to. I don't know what to make of all this, but 25 of 39 for 250, three touchdowns and a pick. They sacked him twice, which only Auburn did more. Limited his rushing, right? They limited him in this game more than any. Sure, he threw for fewer yards against Samford, but whatever. And Auburn, he didn't score the same amount of points against Auburn, but he also he was just better on the day, threw for 420 yards and 3 touchdowns. So ASU did give up the 3 touchdown passes, and the first one to Trigg was just a great play by Trigg, and the second, he's just a great player. But it's good that ASU for 2 weeks now has limited Robertson and Hoover to clearly below average performances based on their previous games. So that is good to see. And I think this defense is just playing well. So that's been their calling card this year, and it lines up with what people were expecting in the offseason, right? The defense was ahead of the offense, and now you're seeing the offense kind of start to figure some things out. if they can just be a little bit better in the red zone and make all their field goals and, keep stacking up good drives, then they'll start to break through even more. So it would be great if we just kind of get a similar type of progression as we got last year with the team. That would be great. It's kind of starting to happen. We'll see. So good stuff all around on that front through the first 5 games. All right, let's focus on some other stuff. ASU's in the top 25. This was big news. On the 30th, Devil's Digest reported the ASU Capital Improvement Plan approved $312 million with a development plan for the 2027 fiscal year, which includes a $1 million Desert Financial Arena renovations and a $35 million new football practice facility adjacent to the stadium with a turf field that will replace the Verdi Dickey Dome. This is excellent to see. Would I like it to be a little bit quicker of a timeline? Sure. But credit to Hode Rubino for getting this news out there. And good luck, Arkansas fans. I'm not even going to dignify that with a response. Good luck. So I don't know why. But basically in one of these replies, Devil's Digest notified that this is the indoor practice facility that Dillingham was talking about. And so it's great to see that this is coming to fruition. I'm going to talk about this kind of stuff more next week with all the guests on to kind of talk about some of this big picture stuff. But, I think that just the university athletic department, whatever it is, really showing more investment into the facilities. That is I can complain. I don't think any of these facilities other than Desert Financial Arena really need these huge renovations. But whatever, this is the way of the world in college sports. So football facilities scheduled completion date is for February 2028. So 2 years from now, basically, which feels weird to say. It's good that this process of having the school take on more of the athletic expenses is a good place to be for this current era of college sports. So credit to Devil's Digest for getting that out. ASU is also playing in London. I think I mentioned that in the past, but it is official now. They will play the Kansas Jayhawks in the Union Jack Classic on September 19th, 2026 in Wembley Stadium. So, at first I was against this. However, there's some new information that's come out. This is from Chris Cartman of Sun Devil Source. ASU will have a bye week after playing Kansas in London. Athletic Director Graham Rossini said, with a game against Hawaii to be played in one of the 2 following weeks. So, this alleviates a lot of concerns about the cross-ocean travel that has plagued a fair number of teams in the past. So, ASU will play, let me get to FBS schedules. ASU will play what appears to be a group of 5 team, whatever, or an FCS team to start the year. And then they will go to Texas A&M. Oh, my gosh. Okay. And then after that, they'll fly from Texas to London, play Kansas on the 19th of September, 2026. Then they will be off for the following week, which I love. Then, if you can get Hawaii in the game after that, you basically give yourself 2 bye weeks after the London game. And that should be enough time to get back in order, So this is 25. Okay, 26. So in 26, on September, so here we go. September 5th, they host HBCU team Morgan State in Tempe. Then a week later, they are at Texas A&M. That is going to be an incredibly difficult game. Texas A&M appears to be a legitimate SEC team. Mike Elko's a good coach. Probably going to be a loss. Let's just be real. But who knows? Then on the 19th, here, this FBS schedules. No. So they played Morgan State at Texas A&M. 19th, they are in London for the game. Then they have a bye week after that, and then like early October, they'll host Hawaii. And then you can kind of ease into the rest of the Big 12 schedule after that. And another thing that's great, like you're going to be catching let me look up Jalen Daniels from Kansas. So, yeah, he's a redshirt senior. Like, this is his last year of eligibility. He's been in college, started 6 games as a freshman. 6 games as a freshman in 2020? Yeah, so, like, he's 22. He's going to be 23 later this year. So, he will be gone. And that is good. I mean, maybe the next Kansas quarterback is good, but we already know that Jalen Daniels is good right now. And I mean, Kansas fans could be saying this about ASU, like Sam Leavitt will be gone this time next year when we play them in London. So I think that is, I mean, who knows if who knows, but likely. And so that makes this a little bit more interesting. And I mean, ASU doesn't give up a home game either, which I like that as well. It's Kansas's home game. So yeah, he this is his last year of eligibility in 2025. So we will not face Jalen Daniels. Maybe their backup's better than him. Who knows? But that adds an element. It'll likely be 2 different quarterbacks. Who knows? Maybe it's Jake Fetty, or maybe it's I don't know, a high-profile quarterback that didn't work. Maybe it's Austin Simmons from Ole Miss at ASU because Trinidad Chambliss took his role. But maybe Chambliss will. I don't know. It could be anyone. But it's good to see, and it is I understand why it's appealing from the university perspective. This is the quote from Graham Rossini. The Big 12 is leading the charge to take college football global, and we're proud to be a part of it. College sports are about providing our student athletes with life-changing experiences, and playing in the Union Jack Classic at Wembley Stadium will be an incredible one. With nearly 18,000 international students from 160 countries, ASU already thrives on a global stage, and we can't wait to showcase Sun Devil football and ASU to fans across Europe. So the Kansas is more about hey, we're still completing the stadium type of thing, so we can take a game off. And Brett Yormark's it's cool to have the Big 12 present across the pond, and all that. So, I get the complaints from fans about, why are you playing games overseas? Why, I get it. I think it is. For me, I don't have as much of I think if you've listened to the show, I am not a college football traditionalist or super wrapped up in the pageantry and all that. So to me, that isn't as important as just the actual games on the field and the players and, all that. But I understand where people are coming from. Why, when they have games in NFL stadiums or, playing games across the pond or whatever. I get the complaints. I just don't have it in me to really be that upset about this. And for me, the only issue was more of a logistical issue. And okay, that fine. That's great that you're playing a game in Europe, but how is that going to affect the body clock of these guys for the following weeks. And that concern appears to be alleviated because they're just going to be on a bye week after they play Kansas and London, and then potentially will play Hawaii after that bye week. So they really get to ease back into the regular flow of the season. I think that is critically important to point out when analyzing this game. So honestly, I would love to go to this game in London against Kansas. I think it would be so much fun. Never been to Europe, so that's part of it. But what I like that it's announced. There's enough time for people to get their affairs in order so they can go to the game. So I don't know. I mean, as it stands right now, I absolutely cannot go to that game based on my financial situation and job situation. But it's a year from now, so hopefully I'm in a better spot and can make the trip to London. So, and it's in a cool venue too. Like, it's not like this venue hasn't hosted games before. It's not like they're playing at the Irish stadium where the field's always messed up. Like, Wembley Stadium has played probably 20, 25 NFL games at this point. So the field should be fine. There shouldn't be too many issues on that front. Okay, wrapping this up, but I do want to shout out to Sun Devil Hockey as the Devils open their season tonight, and I didn't know this, will retire Joey Decord's jersey with a banner unveiling tonight. That is awesome. Go Kraken. He is the best player on the Seattle Kraken, my favorite NHL team. And this should be just a fun game tonight. I wish I could go, but they're playing a ranked Penn State team. So this is Sun Devils. Okay, so number 5 Penn State versus number 14 ASU. Penn State has a huge prospect in Gavin McKenna, who is the consensus number 1 overall pick for the 2026 NHL draft. So if you're a hockey fan or if you're kind of a hockey casual, then you'll be able to see a really high level player in, dark blue and white, but he'll be coming to play in Tempe, and they'll be playing a good ASU team that returns a ton of players, right? Like, I believe they bring Potter back. They were a really good team last year, just kind of missed out on the final tournament selection there. But ASU hockey games are always just really fun. It's just a great environment. It's really well done. And, I think this is a great start, a great opportunity for this team to make a showcase. There are going to be a lot of non-ASU people watching this game. Here you go, NHL media. The Gavin McKenna effect is real. Watch McKenna's NCAA debut on Friday, October 3rd at 10 Eastern on the NHL Network and the NHL's YouTube channel. So if you're out of the Phoenix market where you can watch this game on Fox 10, you can watch it on the NHL YouTube channel or the NHL Network. And so according to NHL Central Scouting Vice President and Director Dan Marr, you can come up with a shorter title than that. McKenna is in a special category that you only come across every few years. His offensive instincts and playmaking game are truly exceptional, and it's his composure, compete, and maturity that really sell you on his talent. So this guy's the real deal. Maybe not as big of a prospect as like McDavid or Bedard, but he's in the level just below that. So if you can listen to this podcast in the short little time before the game kicks off, or go on Saturday, then you'll be seeing a really good player. And I mean, ASU, go just for these uniforms. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous hockey uniforms for ASU. The design is impeccable. I love the big sparky helmet. The gold pops off. It's just such a great color scheme, and it just looks really dang good on the ice. So they already got it sold out too, which that's great to see as well. So it should be a fun night tonight on Friday. You get the Decord retirement ceremony. And Decord has been a critically important figure in the rise of Sun Devil hockey. I mean, when you have a goalie like that keeps you in so many games. He helped them get to the NCAA tournament back when they were playing in not Mold Arena. And so, I mean, he's really important to the growth of this program. And so it's really cool to really legitimize the ASU hockey program with retiring a number of someone like that who has a good chance to be a NHL all-star level goalie. And so that's really good to see. So go ASU hockey, limit Gavin McKenna, or hope that Gavin McKenna makes some cool plays, but in a losing effort. Because I do like seeing good players make good plays, but not against ASU. So there's that. I will be back sometime midweek next week to kind of just talk about the Utah game and go over some big picture stuff with a guest, TBD, but it will be a guest. So, all right. Thank you for watching and listening. Please like and subscribe, rate and review. And as always, go Sun Devils.